Hello and welcome to another Zach Carnage video. Today we're taking a look at another UK National Championship format duel video. Now we have had a recent update to the text on the ban list, so we may well be getting a ban list before the UK Nats, but after Latin American Nationals. So the decks that we're running today are SPYRAL against Sky Striker. So here's the SPYRAL list. It's focused on implementing the Knightmares, and it's got a nice combo using the ancient gear stuff. So this is the build as piloted by Rory, so he's most familiar with the deck. However, obviously the deck is due to change as the format develops, so this may be the sort of thing that you could see. It's a little bit different from the sort of thing that's topped the Nationals over the last couple of weeks. But it'll be interesting to see how the deck evolves, and there are some really nice combos that this version can establish. For the Sky Strikers, a few changes since we've last used the build. We've got a bulb and another multi-role in here, playing the base for that recycling of resources, changing up the trap lineup a little bit, got the Judgment and Strike in the main. Mostly the main itself is the same. The side deck has probably changed a little bit more. We're playing Shared Ride now. This is after a review of a lot of OCG builds and just sort of looking at things that could be popular in the upcoming format. So that's it for the Sky Striker list. Let's get on with the duels. So kicking off game one, we've got Rory on the left with the Spirals and me on the right with the Sky Strikers. And I win the die roll here, so I'm going to be taking turn 1 with the Sky Strikers. The build is generally sort of designed to be more of a first turn build, so opening up the upstart. Obviously no response there. And as we've seen over the last few episodes of the series, you can end up in hands that just don't do anything in particular and are sort of more stunning, so just setting 2 here and passing. So Rory opens up the Armageddon Knight, sending a Destrudo here. And then punching in for 14. And setting 1, so he passes turn. During the end phase, using Twin Twisters, ditching a Diabolos to take out that set emergency teleport. And then using Foolish Burial to send a Ray to the grave. And then the Phantom bit, Hornet bit, sorry, summoning a token, going into Kagari, and recycling the Hornet bit is the only target available. And then punching over the Armageddon Knight. It's currently on 18 there. Then rotating into Shizuku for an end phase search of Engage. So back to Spirals. Rory has something of a bricky hand here, so he rotors into a Super Agent. Which should hopefully be able to help him enable some combos a bit more. So he goes ahead and normal summons an Armageddon Knight, using its effect to send one again. Pitching a Destrudo again. I'm not sure if he could have potentially changed things up by sending a Master Plan here. But he opts to go for the Destrudo because obviously being able to get the field spell access is pretty important. And then uses the Super Agent, which gets hit by a Strike, and then just brings it back with the Big Red. Which does change up his turn quite a lot, that Strike. Just reviewing the extra deck first. Then activating the Destrudo. and then using it for a synchro summon into Ancient Fairy Dragon, which is being pointed at by the Shizuki there. I think there are only 3 spells in the grave at the moment for Sky Strikers, so Super Agent will be able to punch over that Shizuki there, triggering the Ray, and then quick effect, turning Ray into Shizuku and triggering the Diabolus in the grave, and end phase searching the Shizuku to add the startup engage. So gradually working the Sky Striker way into having more advantage, more presence on the board. So activating the effect of Diabolus there. Engage searches for a Widow Anchor. The Destrudo was extremely costly here, so putting him onto 43 is a huge problem. The draw pulls out the multi-roll, so if the turns go beyond this one, then we could be seeing some returning of set cards. Second engage, getting another Widow Anchor, so 2 Widow Anchors now, which would be able to take both of the monsters. And Widow Anchor does not stop you from attacking with them, unlike Shark Cannon. So rotating into Kagari, which puts on that extra damage, adding back engage, and then engaging for Shark Cannon, in case there's a follow-up play that needs to be dealt with. No monsters in the main monster zone can take the AFD and the Super Agent, and then attack with all 3 for game there. So Sky Striker's just about pulling ahead through being able to push through the brick, and the strike basically stealing the game away from potential combos that could have come from Spiral. So we move into game 2 now. Rory's going to be taking the start, opening up Drone. I'm not sure what 3 he ended up looking at. I think one of them is going to turn out to be an Ash Blossom though. And then in comes a Destrudo. So costly there because we do know that Sky Strikers can very easily put on about 4k damage, but not much more. However, Ancient Fairy will give him an extra 1000 by popping a Gear Town. He's not going to be using the search of the Ancient Fairy, instead he's going to use Gear Town to summon the Wyvern here. Wyvern will search Ancient Gearbox, and that will search Spiral Quick Fix. So that's an interesting way to be able to access your engine a lot more easily. And then he'll use the effect of Ancient Fairy to special summon the Quick Fix from hand. Now he can't set any spells or traps for the rest of the turn because of the effect of Wyvern, which means that if he wanted to, set up a utility wire or something, then he wouldn't be able to, which is a bit unfortunate. But it does give him extra pieces to play with and access to that quick fix. So rotating through the Cerberus and Mermaid, and then pitching a Rescue in order to summon Ibli from deck. And then he's going to link off that Ibli with the quick fix in order to make Goblin. Using the effect of Goblin, pitching the Ancient Gearbox there. Then Rescue summons Quick Fix will get a search. Searching for a Last Resort. So he does have that additional normal summon. So he normal summons the Last Resort. Links 2 into Helix. Declaring monster, and yep, it is an Ash Blossom. We'll summon out the Master Plan, which can then add the Rescue. So the combos that are achievable by Spiral with these Knightmares are actually phenomenal. So we see Quick Fix come back with a big red. Master Plan and Goblin linked off with the Mermaid to make a Firewall. That searches for Sleeper and Resort searches for a Super Agent. So he just uses a Rescue to bring back Drone, not using the effect again, instead making the Link 1 Princess Sprite, and sending a Super Agent to the grave. Bit unfortunate there. Then activating Super Agent, again calling Monster. Pitching Call by the Grave in order to summon Quick Fix from the grave. That will add a wire, which he won't be able to set, but it is, you know, it's a search target, it's advantage for the next turn, it's a potential discard outlet if he needs it as well. He's then going to make a link 3 here, I believe? Or just a link 2 with the Princess Sprite and Drone in order to make Ib. It's just considering where he wants each thing. So he's going to be using the effect of Firewall, adding, I believe, Master Plan and Last Resort to hand. Linking into Unicorn, which will trigger the Firewall, so he can then summon from hand the Master Plan, get another search for a rescue, linking off the Unicorn and the Master Plan in order to make Griffin. And he's put it in the top zone rather than the side zone because he needs the space open up so that he can play his sleeper in that extra space, equipping it with Last Resort, because if it wasn't being pointed to by the Firewall, it would not be able to activate its effect. Shuffling back with Resort in the end phase, I think it was just a Wyvern there. So my turn, I open up by immediately turning Ibli into a Mermaid because I need my main monster zones to be open, which does make it a little bit tricky with the hand I'm open. So I start off with Ray Link Summoning into Kagari, adding back a startup and triggering the Diablos there. So the startup was sent with the Foolish Goods at the start of the turn. Linking 2 into Cerberus. His effect will trigger pitching Array in order to pop the Firewall Dragon there. So Rory's going to chain the Sleeper effect, taking away the Cerberus, because he cannot target the Diablos here, unfortunately. So Diablos punches over the Griffin because that's going to be a future problem. And basically at this point I can't resolve my Sky Striker spells without the risk of leaving an open field, which would require using the effect of Diablos. But Diablos is so strong on its own, it seemed like a good thing to leave up, until Raigeki came down and wiped it off the field, leaving me completely open. Because beforehand, the major risk would just be Sleeper attacking, and that would be the only problem. So we see Sleeper getting rid of, the Last Resort getting rid of a set rescue. So we can do a direct attack, the rescue summons a drone, drone gives him access to the top of the deck. He can then use the Helix to special summon a super agent, popping the back row there, which is a set infinite impermanence, but nothing that can be targeted there, unfortunately. So just considering the best way to do 8,000 damage here. So he goes into a Decode Talker, and then he has a big red, and that is going to be game. So 1-1 at the moment. Raigeki coming in really clutch against the Diablos there. But it'll be interesting to see what happens, because even leaving the Diablos up, he still had access to a Decode Talker which would have been able to swing over it. So Diablos on its own, certainly not enough to stop the Spiral combos, the Spiral presence. So Sky Striker is taking turn 1, a Rotate into Array here, Engage then comes down, adding a multi-roll, Ray turned into Kagari, adding back Engage, Engage activated, taking a Widow Anchor here. So the aim is to set up as many disrupts as possible. Rotating into Shizuku with 2 set, and then end phase setting the startup with the multi-roll, and then adding with Shizuku adding an engage there. So I think there is another way to work around this. Instead of resolving multi-roll first, you could resolve Shizuku first, adding a Widow Anchor, play it in the end phase on your own Shizuku, and then set it again with your multi-roll. Gives you another set Widow Anchor, which is pretty nice, but it means you don't have that startup in hand. So he plays Ravine, pitching a rescue, and down comes Ash Blossom. That's going to be huge there. So rotating into Resort. When he activates to search, Shared Ride is going to be flipped face up. So this was the one of the changes that was made to the side deck. It looks like a lot of the decks that are going to be playing will be adding cards from the deck to the hand. So Shared Ride seemed like a good option for that. You could also try out things like Mistaken Arrest or Droll and Knockbird. So he adds a Tough here, normal summons it, and then uses its effect to attempt to pop a set card, which is change the Widow Anchor there. Don't have 3 spells in the grave though, so can't take it from him. And then down comes a 1-for-1. Pitching a box from hand to summon Quick Fix. Quick Fix effect triggers. Adding a big red there. So linking 2 into Helix, he now knows the top card of the deck because he has resolved that Tough. And he uses Rescue to summon Tough first, getting rid of multi-roll. So we're not going to be able to set anything having resolved that Widow Anchor, unfortunately. Then brings out the Master Plan, searching for a Rescue, which is again going to give a draw off the Mistaken Arrest. So he's gradually losing information about the top of the deck, unfortunately, but because he summoned the Master Plan already, you know, the Helix has gone through, he doesn't have to worry too much. Using Quick Fix's effect to special summon itself by pitching a Rescue. Getting a Last Resort there. Linking into a Unicorn. Not using its effect on summon. Oh no, it is using the effect on summon to shuffle back Last Resort by pitching a Gear Town there. Because he wants to be able to get off the double search with Master Plan, it's really important for this combo. So Quick Fix and Master Plan are used to link summon. Making a Phoenix here. And then he gets to add a normal resort and a super agent off the Master Plan effect. And then he brings back a Tough. I believe that's with a Rescue. Uses Tough to pop the Kagari, triggering a Ray. And summons his own super agent in order to pop the set Engage. Resort as a sleeper. Big Red summons the double Helix. And then goes into a Trigate, attempting to banish Ray. Ray then activates its quick effect to rotate into a Kagari. We haven't used up too many of the Link monsters so far, so this is okay as far as things go with Sky Strikers. Going into Shizuku actually here, and triggering a Diablos. So the major thing that Diablos does is it makes it annoying for Spiral players because they have to make something that can deal with Diablos without targeting. So generally Decode is one of the better options for dealing with it because you can make it bigger than Diablos. They don't tend to have that much access that doesn't target in the current extra deck. So we see a Decode come down, and then out comes a Sleeper. And this is huge. This is a really big board at the moment. Really hard to deal with. So he pops the Kagari and then attacks with everything else, the Decode punching over the Diablos there. So there's a lot of damage, 5,000 damage, on top of removing the Diablos there. And then passing turn, so we see Foolish Goods first. There are a lot of cards in my hand at the moment because we did resolve Mistaken Arrest end of the turn when a lot of searches happened. But then we do have to deal with a Decode, a Sleeper with an Equipped Last Resort, and a normal resort on the field. So starting by activating Afterburner targeting Decode, which will use its effect, negating that by tributing off the double Helix. Then a Hornet Bit comes down, summoning a token, and then link summoning into Kagari. Kagari's effect triggers to add back the Afterburner. Afterburner is played on the Decode once again, the only viable target on the field. And then he loses the last resort there because it manages to push through. Engage is then played, so we don't have to worry about Sleeper being a huge issue now. Essentially it's just a sort of, I believe Terry, while we were playing this duel, said it's kind of an MST at this point. So the Engage adding a Shark Cannon there, it's just sort of one of the pieces that I didn't have in the hand that I thought could be potentially disruptive to Rory at this point. So activating a multi-roll, and then following it up with a startup. Playing Twin Twisters that we drew off this startup, pitching a Shed Ride in order to deal with that resort, but Sleeper is chained, popping resort, and all the cards that I had on the field at that point. And then I have a Ray access, so Ray into Diabolos is going to take the game. There's nothing left that Rory would be able to do at that point. The Sleeper is just essentially useless, and I'm too far ahead with the number of cards that I've drawn at that point. So Sky Striker wins the SPYRAL Vs Sky Striker matchup. Let us know what you thought of the game. If there were any misplays or changes that you'd like to make to the decks, feel free to leave suggestions in the comment section below. We take a comprehensive look at all of the comments that come through from Facebook and from YouTube, and just try and work out what the best build is going to be based on the comments that people are suggesting, and then the sort of things that we want to play as well. So this is the first time that we've brought in Spirals for this since the Knightmare support dropped. It looks like a really interesting deck and a really great contender for the upcoming format, but it does depend on what's going to be hit on that ban list. Are we going to get a severe hit to Spiral, potentially denying them a way into the meta, or are they going to be left around for the UK National Championship format? Who knows? Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to check out my other series. So there's the rest of the UK Nats format videos that are currently up, and there are going to be a few more in the future as well. I also run a series called Top Deck, in which I take a look at the decks that are piloted by anyone who is top to regional who wants to get in touch. So we take a look at the deck very briefly, just running through everything that's in there, the rounds, and the siding strategy most importantly. And then after that, bring on the pilot for an interview to get some discussion on, perhaps information about how the deck was built, changes that they might make, and any thoughts that they had in general on the deck. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.